Welcome back to David and Frank and Beans. We did a podcast. We did it. This is episode 31.
I almost feel like, is that what we were shooting for this whole time? Was that the goal?
I don't know.
Everyone knows that a podcast
totally
isn't a podcast until you've completed the first 30 episodes.
Oh my God. And just like the wonderful month of October, we have 31 episodes under the belt.
Wow. That works.
It does work.
This is the second time in a row that something has worked out very neatly.
Man.
I got to say it, guys. October is my all-time favorite month of the entire year.
Oh, it's the most wonderful time of the year.
Yeah. I love how much people are down to get spooky. I mean, there's a small percentage of people that don't want to get spooky, but
Jehovah's Witnesses
don't want to get spooky.
That's true. Among other holidays. I love October. The
Weather's better.
the movies.
It is the time. It's the best filmed part of the year for me, besides like the beginning of summer when good stuff is also out. But
fair. There's a lot of good stuff in summer.
It's a lot of
Welcome to Season Talk, where we talk about the differences between seasons. Why people like some seasons and
Why
other people
people
like
like-
other seasons.
I was gonna hop in there and go right that same way. That's hilarious.
Well, today's
man.
a really special episode. We're doing spoopy stuff, part 2.
Yes.
For those of you people who aren't crazy, he's talking about spooky stuff.
Yeah, like almost a year ago, October 12th is when we put the other episode out. So we probably recorded it around the same exact time.
That makes sense.
We did an episode where Frank and I exchanged.
We did a podcast.
We did a podcast. The name works.
That's how they do it.
We did this thing where we talked about ghost stories from our lives, except I didn't have any, so mine were just kind of like scary stories from my childhood, I guess.
Yeah, just like being a child.
And then, well, the title of the episode was Scariest Moments from Our Childhood.
That's
Yes.
right.
So it wasn't specifically paranormal, but today we're going full ghost, right?
Yeah, we're going spooky stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, man.
We'll talk about ghosts in general. We're going to have some personal experiences. I'm going to talk about mine and Frank. And those listeners who known from the last episode, including myself, know that David is a notorious skeptic
Yeah.
of
Well,
ghosts.
is it notorious to be skeptic of ghosts? I feel like it's a pretty good percentage of people.
Maybe I meant...
Can it be notorious when it's at least 50%?
I guess I meant nefarious.
I love nefarious.
Okay, there we go.
But yeah, I'm going to play...
I love Nefarious.
I'm going to be playing the straight
I
man today.
love Nefarious.
Oh, man, I love that refrigerator.
I love it.
Just expect me to say, like, oh, well, it was probably just a car outside a lot this episode. We'll find out.
Probably.
But let's pass it to Frank. Let's dive in, man. What's your first spooky tale for us?
So, I mean, I just have like a ton of spooky stories from
This is
like
true.
being a child. I have some that are like, ooh, this is not okay. And some that are like, all right, that's kind of fun. So I think I'm going to start off light and then try to do an odds and even thing, end up on a dark one. Because why not end dark? We end light too many times. You know what I'm
I
saying?
like this formula.
What is ending?
It's
dark
something. It's
even
almost
mean?
like
I'm
we've done.
excited.
It's like we've almost done T3, B3s and tiered lists before.
Wow. We're all about the tiered list here.
I just live my life in list form now. So, I've had a lot of paranormal experiences in my lifetime, I would say. Some of them, like I said, leave you in a bad feeling. And honestly, those are like in the minority. For the most part, these are just things I found really interesting. And some of them were kind of fun. Most fun was, and originally I thought this was my dog. I had a little Jack Russell Terrier named Wishbone. Notoriously mischievous. He was just always like getting into stuff.
Sorry.
I thought Wishbone... What's up?
Two notorious is in one episode.
Whoa, welcome to
Nope,
WeDAP
nope,
31.
Notorious.
Notorious David, Frank, and Beans.
Whoa.
The notorious DFB.
Yes,
Oh,
dude.
man.
Yes.
T-shirts coming.
Oh, goodness. I don't know if we're going to get better than that in this episode, but
Yep.
we'll see. We'll see if we can top that. So I was under the assumption that Wishbone just decided it was fun one day to unravel the entire roll of toilet paper. I thought my dog was just like playing with this stuff because would come into the bathroom, whole toilet paper, brand new toilet paper roll would just be like unrolled, like in a pile.
Matilda style.
Yeah, a little bit. I'm sure that's what it looked like when it was happening. There were like a bunch of objects floating around and a little girl dancing in the middle.
On my way.
But one day I happened to be walking by the restroom and I'm watching the toilet paper unroll.
Get out.
And it's not like falling, it's like... And literally out loud, I was like, haha, fun. That's good stuff. Keep up the good work.
Whoa.
And the whole time I thought it was my dog. And if I hadn't have seen it, I would just assume the whole time that it was my dog undoing this. But some ghosts just want to have fun, you know?
Some are kids.
Interesting.
Some are kids.
Some are kids.
We'll talk a little bit more about that later.
The Nino ones in
not
my
the next story,
experience.
but the next story.
Oh.
So how old were you when this happened?
At this point, I was like 17.
17.
Yeah.
Okay, wow. I mean, that's a pretty hard story to dispel, I would say.
It's a really good story because I just saw it with my own two eyes.
If
it was falling slowly, I would have been like, okay, like that's just
Gravity or-
weird.
yeah.
You know what I mean? But this stuff was like,
Have you considered that maybe it was like a car passing by outside or something like that?
oh my goodness.
Well, you know, I will just say this, and I'm not saying this in this particular story, but this is something I think is really interesting. You know, people see things a lot, but let's say Frank had a vivid dream about walking past. You know what I mean? Like walking past a toilet paper roll. Obviously, it's a terrifying dream. But
Wake up in a cold sweat.
Spooky.
oh my gosh!
How
I just bought that toilet paper. But
Sounds
you
like a
know,
Charmin commercial.
people can convince their brains of things that happened that might have never happened, or something that you told yourself happened, but then over time convinced yourself to happen. You know what I mean?
100% aware of that.
That's why like eyewitness testimony is so terrible.
Oh, absolutely.
But that's not what happened because immediately after seeing this, I went to go tell John about it, like in his room.
Crazy.
I was like, dude.
I mean,
Did you
this
see
one's
this?
pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Did you have to clean it all up and everything, or what?
I
happened?
would just like roll it back up every other time. It's a whole roll of toilet
so
paper.
this
I'm not
happened a
throwing it in
couple
the trash.
times. Ah.
Yeah, it was like an ongoing thing. I assumed it was Wishbone the whole time, and one day I just happened to
Interesting.
watch it go down.
Well-
I was like, "Yo!"
Oof.
The way more reasonable explanation, though, like the easy explanation, obviously, is like restroom gnomes. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like those
easily,
gnomes
obviously.
you have in your restroom
Oh.
that just hang around.
Me, the idiot, thinking it's ghosts.
Yeah.
When logically the whole time, a race of tiny little mystical creatures.
Yeah.
Unraveling. You know,
Everyone knows about restroom.
I should have
gnomes.
known this because I'm blaming things on gremlins constantly.
You know, the thing is that gnomes are like notorious for living in trees. And maybe, yeah.
Sorry.
They're not gnomes. They're elves.
No, I just meant the notorious.
Oh, yeah.
They're
Oh,
notorious.
man. What is going
Notorious
on right now?
kind of bing.
So maybe they were trying to reclaim their tree that was cut down to make that paper.
Wow, we have like a Fern Gully style story going
Yeah.
on. Right now.
Oh my
This is
goodness.
exciting.
This whole time I thought I knew what was going on and the world's just being uncovered before my eyes.
Wow. That is good. I like that one. I don't think I've heard it. I've heard many of Frank's spooky stories.
I got a
because
lot of them.
I've been
I've
his
known you
friend
for
for
a
a long
long
time.
time.
But you do have a lot of them, and I'm guessing there's just a pantheon I haven't been aware of. It's like, wow.
You just forget some stories, especially when you tell the same stories over and over again.
That's true. That's true.
Just like, oh yeah, I have this one too.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, it's funny I'm going to do also a tiered list of spookiness on my stories.
Oh, I don't have a tier. I just have a
Wow.
bunch of stories written down on this piece of paper. I was like, oh yeah, and there's this one.
Oh,
and that time.
Yeah, I'm gonna dip my feet as far as it goes for spookies. What's funny is my first story actually happened at your house, which was actually
I am aware of this.
Yes.
Yeah.
which was actually one of my first paranormal experiences like ever, I'd say.
And that was like honestly, when a very active time in my family. I won't say it's the
Oh, yeah.
house because I've been told like it is just the family and the energy we bring. But that was like the years in that house were definitely the most active years. It was really crazy. That's where honestly, I think almost all of these stories on my sheet of paper right now are from.
In the same house.
Yeah.
Were
And the
you-
stories that I told last time, that house.
That's interesting.
That house, same time frame.
Were you talking about Hunter's Glen, or are you talking about the second house?
Hunter's Glen. Oh,
Okay.
no. You're talking about the story from the second
I
house
have
right
one
now.
from the second house.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did have stuff happen to me at Frank's first house, which he's talking about the most activity. But it's very vague because it was a while back. And I remember it happening, a lot of the time it happened in the middle of the night. Like, this is usually what happened every time. It's like when things would wind down.
Yeah.
And I remember in Frank's first house, this is off of my first story. This is just a side story really quick. I just remember he had like a maid's quarters room in one of the houses.
Maid's quarter.
Yeah, something like that, right?
It was just like another room.
It's another
where they
room,
live
but
in
there
house,
was like
keeper stayed, yeah.
there was like clothes and stuff in there.
There was a
and-
calendar full of pictures of the Pope.
yeah.
Wow.
It was very much And so I remember sleeping with the door halfway open one time, and there was a nightlight in the house. There was a nightlight in like every hall in that house.
Yes, my mom does not like walking around in the dark.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't if I was part of your family and everything happened. But I just remember waking up in the middle of the night. We kind of went to bed a little bit early. I left the door halfway open, and I remember seeing just like, you know how the way that lights and shadows refract larger onto a wall? Mm-hmm. So like the kind of the light was at the corner of the hallway that would refract anything bigger that walked by. And like I just saw like something that took like a human shape walking towards the room, and it kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And by the time it should have walked in front of the room, there's nothing. And I remember just like getting up, shutting the door, and being like, okay,
Whoa.
I just need to like...
All right, time to just like stay asleep until the morning.
Yeah.
The morning's where the safety is.
And I like covered my ears because the thing that scares me every time is hearing things. I would rather see something than hear the things. Because
I feel the opposite way about
really?
it. Yeah.
The hearing scares me.
I feel like hearing's more, and you could explain it away in any manner of things. Something about seeing something's a little harder to get your head around. I think.
And that's kind of the thing. Like in the way I think about it, like if something has the energy to like visually, like physically manifest itself, that's a lot of energy.
It is.
And I'm not trying to mess around with
that's
that.
That's what I learned from Paranormal Activity.
Yeah.
It does take a lot. It takes a lot for physical interaction with objects. Like that toilet paper, that's a strong entity.
There.
Yeah.
So, real quick, outside this room, like this hallway that you saw the light or whatever, was there any windows that were visible from that hallway?
This was at the old house or the new house?
Yeah, there was no windows in that hallway.
At the old house, there were a lot of windows, but my dad was super anal about every night walking around and closing.
He had alarms.
They're like wooden shutters. What do they call them? Venetian blinds?
Venetian blinds?
You go and shut them every night.
Because I was going to say, like, if there was a car passing by outside, maybe that could have cast a shadow.
I mean, I definitely see what you're saying. But I will say this. I don't see a way that light could have refracted into it because the way that the room faced was to the front of the house.
Oh, you know what? And the hallway he's talking about, it faces the front of the house, and behind it, it's
nothing.
Just rooms with closed shutters and then like a door to the garage.
And the backyard is all ditches, and it's a far way to the river, so there's no...
But there is like a night light in the hallway, right? This is the light source we're talking about.
Yeah.
Because it could have been something very small that passed by directly in front of the light.
Probably.
That would cast a large shadow, like a doggy.
A bathroom gnome.
Like a gnome.
Like a bathroom gnome. Maybe he was just trying to find the bathroom.
It did have a pointy hat. I will say that.
Man, there aren't enough night lights in this house. Where's the damn bathroom?
Where's the toilet paper? So that's like a kind of like...
It was a bathroom gnome named Cornholio, and he needed TP for his bunghole.
Whoa.
Wow, it's coming around.
Mystery solved.
That bathroom gnomes.
So the actual one I have is from Frank's house, which followed this house after that.
Okay.
Which was over by Cabana del Sol, or what's it
up
called?
on the like at the base of the Franklin Mountains.
So this is the main spooky house.
No, that was the main.
That was the main spooky house.
Yeah, that was the main
previous one.
spooky house.
And it's funny because aside from that, I had spent numerous nights at his previous very spooky house and had never noticed anything.
Okay.
And then that happened, and I think that was like one of the last times I ever spent the night there. Not intentionally, but it just like happened to be that way.
Yeah,
But-
just like hang out too late.
Yeah, and just
your parents
pass
refuse
out.
to pick you up.
Yeah.
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 Like,
And
I'm not driving out there. It's late. My dad's like, I'm not
Might as
driving
well
home. It's
stay
late. All right, Danny, spend the night.
So this one happened at Frank's second house, which had a second story. The first one did not. That's an essential part of the story.
I'm aware of.
Yeah.
This one you told me about immediately because I know this one affected
Well, I
you
came
pretty
back
good.
to your room and I started telling you about it. It was dead of the night. We had just hung out. I think we were playing Madden earlier before and just hung out, came back home. And then Frank's house was on the upstairs, which had a loft right next to it as soon as you get there. Big carpeted loft.
Yeah, top of the stairs, you could go right into the loft or like left kind of straight into my room.
All the rooms were
It was
right
like
there.
the layout.
Yeah, there's mom's room,
Bathroom,
John's room.
like another sharp left.
Yeah. And so, like, again, the same instance happens. Frank's mom notoriously has... Number 4. I didn't even realize it.
Wow. I didn't catch that one either.
Frank's mom does have, like, lights all over the house. It's the night lights, the little plugins. And there's one, if I remember correctly, on the stairs. And so that actually illuminates the entire loft pretty much up until the top. There's only shadows at the top.
Yeah, it hits it pretty good.
Yeah.
It was like a light bar.
Yeah. And Frank had carried over a green recliner chair, which he had on a spring. And I know this chair very well because we used to hang out on it all the time.
I had to sleep in that chair for
Together
2 months
at the
when
same
my
time?
collarbone was broken. So these guys would come over to visit me, and I would just
You
be
guys all
like
just pile in the chair
in the
together.
chair.
We just had a good old
I
time in there.
mean, sometimes we grew up with a very cuddly friend group for some reason.
Yeah.
There were several
Beyond
like
friends.
group naps in our lifetime.
Interesting. I've never done that before.
We were tired from being weird all day. We had to cuddle together, get a nap in, and you know what I mean?
Play Monster Rain. So I digress. Okay. Frank's room's at the top of the stairs.
Okay.
It's middle of the night, maybe about 1, maybe about 2 a.m. I get up to go downstairs to get some water. And I already know as soon as I'm getting up, like, I don't get up in the middle of the night at Frank's house because I know something's going to happen. And I always get the feeling that something is walking behind me whenever I'm in Frank's house. It's like, it's dark. I always feel it. Like, I feel this, like, static sound around me. And then it's like the back of my hair is like kick up and stuff. And
You just want to walk a little bit faster?
Yeah, it feels-
I'm very familiar with the
you
feeling.
know the feeling, yeah.
Yeah.
And it just happens out of nowhere, and it feels like someone is shuffling their feet under my feet as they lift. You know what I mean? It's a real weird feeling,
Which is
especially
funny
going
because that's
upstairs.
my bully move.
Yeah. Frank does that quite a bit, actually. Now that I think about it. Okay, so I go downstairs. Frank, it's funny you say that because Frank's kitchen is really dark in that house. It was really dark. Maybe one of the nightlights was out, but like that whole area, your living room, which was a kitchen also.
Oh, like right at the base of the stairs?
Yeah, it was all super dark. And so I went in there and I was like feverishly like looking for a light because I was just like, please, 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 like illuminate. And so I just go and I like open up the kitchen door and it illuminates the entire living room. And I'm like, okay, I'm able to get water. And I get my water. I'm good to go. I start going back and I come up to the corner part of the stairs that turns up to the loft. And I come up, and the green chair, which was originally facing backwards, starts rocking backwards and forward. And as soon as I like start walking to the top, like I can kind of see it at the top of the loft when I start getting up. As soon as I get to the top, it like rocks to where it's facing me, and then it stops. It like stops rocking. That's the thing.
And it's not like a small chair. It's not a
it's
Lazy
a big,
Boy
heavy
brand,
chair.
but
Yeah.
we're talking about big old lounge, like recliner, like big heavy thing.
So is this the same place? I'm getting just so confused by these houses. Is this the same place that the toilet paper thing happened?
No, this is the house we moved to after that.
This is where
After that.
PK started. This is the house where PK
It's the
started.
house we started practicing
the garage.
Phantom Cannon. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then the previous one, I think I had been to one time.
I drove us by it one time. I didn't know you guys when I lived there, I'm pretty sure.
I went to your house for something. I don't remember what it was that was going on. Or it was your dad's house or something like that.
No,
Oh,
it's a
yeah,
different
that's a-
place.
that's a
that's
totally
a, that's a
different house.
separate house.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
that one haunted.
Yeah,
the
that's my
big
dad's
one
place.
is like a one-story layout. It's
Okay.
really spacious and stuff. It's got a
Because I was going to say, it sounds like Frank's got some kind of like strange, like, you're like in some weird electromagnetic current field or something.
which could happen.
like all this stuff reacting in
Yeah.
a weird way, like some kind of bizarre spot. But it's very bizarre that it's two different places.
Oh, it's all the time.
So I'm telling you, it's not the house, it's the
so
family.
how many houses have you lived in?
Oh, so many.
Oh, in my lifetime, a ton of them. There was a point where the house where everything went down, my dad had that house built, like when I was a kid. They sold their house they were living in way faster than they thought they would.
Okay.
So for a while, we were just like renting houses like every other couple of months. Like I've lived in a
Interesting.
lot of houses.
And how many of them did you have some kind of paranormal experience?
I've had weird experiences since I was a small child. From
But,
when I
like,
like
at all
lived up
the
by Franklin.
houses?
Oh, 100%. Well, I had this house with a basement, and I used to love to hang out in that basement, but also like not at night. I didn't spend any time in that basement at night. But that could have been just me being a scared little kid. Who knows? But I've had a ton of experience
That's
in my
interesting.
lifetime.
Yeah, I've noticed it at every one's you've gone to, but except for the last one before this current one, as far as I've known Frank, I think it's been 4 houses.
Okay.
5 including your dad's second one, the one that's up here on West Wind.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's
those
the one I've been
those
to.
numbers add up to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, like I said, with this story, I mean, it just creeped me out because obviously something could have tipped it, or even airflow
Yeah.
kicking on, air conditioner or something.
The
You know what I
timing,
mean?
though, is pretty... Well, I don't know if an air conditioner could move a chair like that.
I don't know.
And make it swivel.
That's why I wanted to make the point about like it
What-
being a hefty chair. Like
It
it
is
sucked
heavy.
to move.
What was
Yeah.
underneath that loft? Like
the
floor down?
dark kitchen living room area. I was
Yeah,
talking about.
Oh.
right under it.
Because I was going to say if it was like the garage or something, maybe like a car just pulled in. You know what I mean?
No, the
And
garage was actually
vibrations
like
of a car from outside.
underneath the room
Underneath
we used to
Mom's
practice
room.
in.
Yeah, it's in the
Oh,
front
okay.
pretty much.
I can't remember this house very well. Like I remember
was a while back.
Like I feel like I always just like walked upstairs right into the practice room. And that was
Probably.
it.
Well, that's the stairs. That's the
Yeah.
one it happened on.
That is so interesting.
Yeah, it was.
I don't know. I'm just going to say right now, this is the most reasonable explanation, that Frank wants paranormal things to happen. You know what I mean? And he's made himself more open to perceive them.
Oh, I'm 100%
And
open
then
to him.
Danny's
his whole
coming over,
family's
hanging out,
totally-
and he's talking so much about all these paranormal things that are going on, I'm sure.
Oh,
And
it's
then-
not like that's what we're talking about like all the time.
No, but I mean, like, I'm sure that that's something that you guys knew about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Danny was like, oh, man, crazy stuff is going to happen at Frank's. So then Danny goes over, and in a moment where it's like something really spooky would happen, something spooky did happen. But maybe Danny was just sleepy and remembered it incorrectly.
Could have been.
It could
The
be.
human brain is fascinating.
Oh,
and
my
when
goodness.
it breaks, it breaks.
Dude, I say that so many. It's like
know you do. That
Yeah,
was-
that's,
that was
that's
a
my
Frank
line.
quote.
That's my favorite thing about psychology, man.
And
It's like, wow, that thing is shattered.
I do love the correlation between magnetic activity and hallucinations, because it can cause auditory
Yeah.
and visual hallucinations.
Like messes with your equilibrium.
and there
right?
there is a correlation between electromagnetic activity and paranormal reports and activity, and that's why they use like EMP and stuff to like discover paranormal activity. And it's like we were saying, things manifest through energies.
So I always said life is energy. What is everything?
It can't be
except for
created nor
energy?
destroyed. It's
Energy
it's,
in certain states.
yeah. So there's some correlation between it all. Like, I'm not going to try
Mm-hmm.
and go into pseudoscience, but I just think it's really cool. When I'm trying to sleep and it's really screwing me up, it's not super cool.
Yeah.
When I'm isolated, it's even worse. And we'll get into that in my further story. But Frank, let's kick it over to you.
So we were talking about like things manifest, the different ways things can manifest themselves, and we were talking about like the physical manifestations, like being able to move objects and it being just like a little bit creepier in your mind. You know what I mean? So we're gonna go back a house to where we were currently talking to.
Oh, my goodness.
To the house,
The original that
we'll
I
refer
met
to
you
it
in.
to Hunter's.
names.
Well, I was gonna say
Okay.
we'll refer to
Hunter's
it as
Glen.
Hunter's Glen. Hunter's Glen is the house where, and I think it's kind of, now that I'm thinking about it in my head, it's kind of unfair to say like it's where I had the most activity, but it's because I lived there for like 12 years. It's
Yeah, it
where I
was a
spent
long
like
time.
Interesting.
most of my childhood.
You know what would be really interesting would be for us to go to that house and talk to the people who live there now.
Is someone in it?
And just be like, hey, look.
Yeah, somebody lives there.
Like, hey, this is super weird, but like we've been doing a podcast for a while and we keep bringing up this house where spooky stuff happened. And we just need to know, like,
They're gonna be like,
has anything
what?
happened here? You know what I mean? Have you experienced any kind of like weird paranormal feelings or anything like that? I would just be curious. You know
I
what
would
mean?
and the
too,
lady who
I would.
answers the door is gonna be like, no, and then she floats off of the ground a little bit.
And then we like turn around and then the house is actually for sale or for rent or something.
It's just like a lot. It's just a dirt lot. What?
So anyways, this takes me back to Hunter's Glen. This also happened in high school, but I think a little bit earlier. I was probably like, I think like a freshman, sophomore. So I'd have been like, what, 14, 15?
Yeah.
Something like that. Or had stuff happen, mostly just like hearing things, seeing things most of the time, like didn't feel malicious, you know what I mean? Just kind of like, hey, like,
Okay.
do you
Some
know what's going
presence.
on? This doesn't make any sense to me. Like, yeah, dude, you need to get it out of here. Like, this isn't where you belong, idiot.
Yeah, this is my house.
You dummy. Look at the big bright door. Go to it. Go to it. So there was this, and as far as like time span, this hadn't been going on for a couple of months because it was like really worrying me for a really long time. But things would like move in my room, and it started off a little bit slow, but eventually it worked up to the point where things were being thrown off of the wall. Like I would see this go down.
Whoa.
I used to have a bunch of guitars on like one of those rack like wall stands. You know what I mean? Where you fit like 5 of them or whatever. One day I was in there and like just like one by one the guitars were like slam, 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 slam. I was like, what? The little guitar amp that I had one time picked up and then just fell back on its face one time. That was really creepy. That one like really creeped me out. I was like super not okay with these things happening. I used to have this entertainment system, or not. No, what do you call it? Yeah, I guess that's what you call it, like a furniture wise.
Oh yeah.
Where like it was like cabinet doors that closed over the TV. Used to close them when I went to sleep at night.
Yeah.
Woke up to the sound of them popping open and coming open, and I watched them like open, and then one by one close again. Super weird. But when things started getting thrown, that was like the peak of it. Like, I don't know, really weird. And during that time, I used to like wake up with a bunch of scratches and stuff all the time. Like big nasty scratches on my back. Some of them would like cut a little bit. Have like bruises that I couldn't count for, which in all fairness, I could say the same about right now on the bruises. I have a bruise on my knee right now that I just saw the other day, and I was like, I wonder where you came from. But that's just because I'm dumb and clumsy.
Are you sure you're not mistaking your childhood memories with the plot of Paranormal Activity?
Oh, 100%.
This came out before.
I just wanted to make sure.
Very familiar with the plot of Paranormal Activity. Just watched the original one recently, actually.
It's good.
I was like,
It's
yeah,
so
down,
good.
let's
Isn't
do
it
this.
really
I even
good?
really like
Yeah.
the second one.
Yeah, like they really nail it for a while.
It's
but
something to be said about the minimal horror in like Blair Witch and that.
It
and
just
it's
adds
just-
to the tension. Your like view is so like narrow, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and your brains knows what to look for. So when something's off, it's really odd. But I don't know, man. I mean, how do you deny someone just seeing something other than you saying that person's crazy? You know
All
what I
the
mean?
times that things were like thrown the hardest, daytime.
Interesting. So no one else ever saw these though, right?
No, it was always just me and Wishbone hanging out in the room.
Throwing is like
I'm pretty sure John heard the time all the guitars went down because one of them was acoustic.
yeah,
And it
it's
was
gonna
like
be loud.
It was a couple guitars, a bass, and an
Even an
acoustic
amp
guitar.
dropping down.
Wow.
Yeah, things being thrown off a wall. That's a powerful energy.
Yeah.
That is like, and it is begging for attention.
Yeah. And it wasn't like a good way to get attention. That's what like made me really uncomfortable.
That's what's
about it.
worrisome. It's like when they want attention like that, it's either a pure manifestation of anger or it's something that it just, I don't know. It just shouldn't
I'm
be
pretty
in
sure
there.
that was one of the times I like couldn't be in the house for like the cleansing. I was like, no, I can't. Like,
It's a heavy
I'm
spirit.
going for a walk. Like I can't do this.
Well, yeah, your aunts do like cleansings and stuff, right?
Yes.
See, this just goes back to my previous argument, everyone. If you're listening, you're as skeptical as I am. It's like Frank has grown up in this. This is an important part to know, you know what I mean? From the point of view of our storyteller. That he has been brought up in a group of people that believe in that. But, playing devil's advocate to myself, what if his family's just more experienced with this so they know how to handle it? Because obviously maybe it's something to do with Frank's family. Because the
See,
odds of
and
you
that
having
goes-
like 5 haunted houses is very low. I
That
would
goes
imagine.
back to like other spiritual people that I've talked to have told us like, no, it is like you guys, it is the family. It is like the way, it's like your energy, the like love that you and light that you try to bring out. Like it makes you open to these kind of things. I will also say to that point, my sister, also part of the family, little bit jealous because I'm pretty sure like she's a little bit more sensitive than me or a lot more sensitive than me. But she refuses to deal with this stuff. She's just like, no,
She shuts it
I
out.
like don't want to deal with it. She shuts it out. And like after a certain while of that, like she doesn't experience anything.
You can shut it
Like
out.
she like
man.
refuses.
Yeah, it is like you're saying. It's a very.
I'm pretty sure like one of my
tolerant.
nephews is the same way where he's also like very sensitive, really powerful. And he's just like also like, I don't really want to like please just, I've heard her like, she used to tell me she would just be like, please leave me alone. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want any of this. Like, please just leave me alone.
It can be a tolerance thing. Like I got to be honest. Like, and it's one of the things that like they say that kids are more open to these
Yeah.
experiences because they have less discrimination between what's real and what's
And
not.
Frank has a childlike brain.
And he's dumb. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm really getting at.
Who's
And-
dumb?
Who's dumb?
But you know,
Sorry, I got
like,
distracted by something shiny. What were we talking about?
But yeah, like those that are more susceptible, people that allow it to be a possibility or open to possibilities, it can happen. And I don't agree with that at all. I mean, I don't disagree with that at all. It's like, yeah.
Oh, wait, the opposite.
yeah. It's like a tolerance thing. It's like an openness thing. Like if you believe it could be something in reality, then maybe they're attracted to, if whatever it is attracted to that and can happen and manifest and stuff like that. But very interesting.
That's one of
That
my
is.
big spookies.
That is very spooky.
Very spooky.
What do you have for us next, Danny?
Well, okay, I'd like to talk about one that is probably okay. I guess it is it's the second most profound paranormal experience that I've had in my life, which I personally can't explain. And it gets weirder every time I explain it because it's like I really understand that it got weirder.
And you know what I'm just realizing? And it might not even be like, this is totally a thought that I just had now for the first time. So who knows how valid it is or not. But you like grew up around dead people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess I haven't told anyone. Yeah, I don't really talk about that much.
Yeah.
My mother was an embalmer and a mortuary assistant and a funeral director for many years for a local funeral home here in El Paso. And since I was born, she was doing that since I was born, probably up until I was like 12, 14 years old. And she was a single mom working hard, and we basically grew up in all of these funeral homes. I would do my homework in the embalming kitchen, like the kitchen right next to the mortuary, right next to where everything's done. We would hang out, and this is all done overnight when embalmers work. It's like done overnight. So my mom would go to school, we'd go there, and my sister and I would be in the funeral home all night, pitch dark. Sometimes we'd go into the chapels. Sometimes we'd play the organ or just like play around. But you know what's funny? Like a lot of the scary experiences I've ever had didn't really happen in the funeral home as much.
Yeah, I think I forgot to like make the point after the observation. I just got really excited about the observation.
Yeah.
But like maybe that's one thing that just like makes you a little bit more susceptible to it, just like you being around death for so long at a very young age.
My mom's very susceptible to it. She has more stories than I do, and I don't remember them.
I have to ask her the next time I'm hanging out with her.
Because I just want to say this, like I'm pretty sure that they used to follow my mom home and all around because she's a very enlightening and open person too. It's like she's very
mama, man, just like open arms. You know,
she's very caring, and sometimes that goes into the funeral director experience. You got to be a very empathetic, sympathetic person to like deal with all that.
But do continue with your story.
Oh yes,
I'm sorry.
no,
I
absolutely.
just got really excited.
Well, this story actually has mom in it, so it's really funny that you say that.
I introduce the character and scene.
Yeah. Foreshadowing. So, my mother and I went on a trip to visit some family in Los Angeles. And we love going. We like go to Disneyland and stuff like that. And we used to live in Long Beach, California, which is the final harbor destination for the Queen Mary, the RMS Queen Mary. Do you know about it, Frank?
I'm aware of the Queen Mary.
You know about it? Okay. So for any listeners that don't know about the RMS Queen Mary,
she's the one who makes like those chocolates, right?
Yeah.
The
little ones
cherries,
with the little curly. Yeah. The Queen Mary is a retired British Navy vessel, made in the 30s sometimes, kind of like the Titanic. Anyways, it's harbored in Long Beach, California, and it's now been retrofitted into a hotel and like a haunted experience because it's supposed to be notoriously haunted. We went on the ghost tour, but this is actually what happened before the ghost tour.
Just for the record, there's a hard eye roll on that ghost tour.
Yeah. The hard. I am not for like ghost tours. It's hokey and
ghost
stuff
tours
like that.
Always suck.
Yeah, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, I get it. You know, you're kind of pulling away from the whole experience by doing it, and it is almost entirely from what I remember, like the original carpet, the original like furniture inside of the place, and they kind of like keep it up. So we get to the Queen Mary. We're checking in. We get to front desk. We're showed to our room, which is down one of the halls. We get in. My mom and I put our suitcases up, and we're just like, okay, so let's start planning out the day. So we start talking. We start planning out the day. I'm like, okay, Mom, I'm gonna hit the shower, but keep going. I'm here. So we start talking like what food we want to eat, where we want to go, what stuff. We're doing an itinerary, and this time like doors half open. I'm taking a shower. I'm getting ready to like get dressed for the day, and we start talking. We keep going, and I get out of the shower. I get back to the closet to where I've hung up some of my shirts. I'm like putting on a shirt. My mom and I are still talking. She's talking about going to Disney World and like one of our favorite spots to eat, Ruby's, which is on like one of the harbors, the end of one of the harbors in Long Beach.
Oh, Ruby's is awesome.
You remember the diner, right?
Yeah,
Amazing
I
shakes.
I've been there, man.
Yeah, and then like we were starting to talk about like how cool it is that like everything's like retrofitted here and it's all the same. And I asked my mom if she can actually pass me my wallet, which is over on the desk by where I could hear her. And as soon as I do that, I don't get a response. And I'm just like, Mom, can you pass me the wallet? And I turn around. No one's there. The front door to the room opens, and my mom walks in.
Ooh.
And she puts down like the room key on the side, and she's like, and I was like, wait, where were you? And she's like, I had to go back to the front desk. I needed to like check something with the itinerary for the hotel. And I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, for how long? And she's like, we came in and dropped the bags off, and I went. I told you I'd be right back. And I was like, what?
What are you talking about?
Yeah. I was talking to someone who had my mom's voice, my mom's mannerisms, and my mom's memories.
And she's like a character.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to nail that. Like she's got like a rhythm, a way she
Oh,
talks.
yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, yeah. And it's like, it was unnoticeable. Like I was having a full conversation with my mom, but she had the exact memories of when we were living there the first time. But what tipped me off too is that we talked about the ship. Like we were talking about how cool all of the stuff was.
Yeah.
She was just like,
Just,
yes, don't you love my ship? Isn't
this a great
I bought that
I'm Queen Mary.
So, okay, here's my only question. What,
Is it?
how much, actually, alcohol did you consume up until that point that day? How many White Claws have you knocked back?
They didn't have them yet.
That's all I got.
I was 15 years old.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So,
So
what? Just
probably
like
at this point,
couple
only like
handles?
a bottle of Bacardi.
Yeah. Okay.
Easily.
Well, Danny can hold way more than that.
Yeah.
That's weird, man.
Strange occurrence. And
That's a weird story.
nothing else happened on our Italian stay. The haunted tour wasn't weird. I got no other vibes past that. I don't even remember how I slept that night. But that has always been stained in my brain, how it was like something was able to mimic my mother to a T. And I didn't know a difference. And my mom walks into the front door.
That's weird.
Like, and then the fact that she told me that she was going to the front desk, and
you had no recollection
don't
of
recollect
that.
that at all. I thought she was putting her clothes away while I was like getting ready in the bathroom and stuff. So
Weird.
super crazy.
Weird.
Yeah, it's
That's
a
a
weird
weird one.
occurrence.
I like it. Spooky. Spooky. Okay, so... sorry, I just wrote so many down, it's hard to, like, choose one. Okay, yeah, so we were talking about... I'll just choose so I can, like, segue. Danny had mentioned something about, like, children being a little bit more susceptible because they're not, like, already nailed into what reality is versus, like, what reality isn't. You know what I mean? Society's norms, man. They've been torn down by society, man.
Gotta discern.
Sorry, I felt it and I had to.
Yeah, wow.
I just put on my like olive drab jacket for a second and I went for it.
Definitely did that.
So my niece, who I won't mention by name, I guess I'll just like call her like let's go with Stinky Face. My
That
niece
works.
Stinky Face. She when we lived at Hunter's Glen, there was, and I think I mentioned something about like the end of this like little section of that house on the last podcast, and we'll get to that right now.
Okay.
Cue the
So my
Scooby-Doo,
niece
like,
had, and you can see this happening like all the time. My niece, my sister would come over visit us. My niece, we'd all be like hanging out, and my niece would just like seem like she was playing by herself, but she was like playing with somebody. Like she was like playing games and like
I
running
remember
around and
this.
stuff. That's what happened all the time.
I saw it.
She had to have been like maybe like 4, 5, 6 at the time,
Okay.
like somewhere in that age range. Who knows? Chubby little cheeks, you know, like not super good at running around. Somewhere in that age. So she was always like just playing with somebody, but by herself. You would see her like having conversations. And like her like waiting for responses and getting responses back and like having conversations with whatever. You'd ask her like, who are you talking to? And she'd be like, oh, my friends. And like we had this picture of the whole family, at least my mom's side of the family, at Christmas one year. We all like got together, sort of this big old family picture. And she would like talk to the picture sometimes and be like, who are you talking to? And be like, my friends. And you'd ask her to show her and she'd point to spots in the picture where there was nobody.
Okay.
So this went on for a really long time. We all just like accepted it. We were like, yeah, like Gabrielle's friends. When at a point around this time, the house started to feel really busy. It was just like, it wasn't even like dark or anything. It was just like so busy, like a busy like bus station or something.
Like
it
a
just
party
always
in
felt
the
like,
house?
yeah. And that I'm glad that you used that term because we'll get there. Foreshadowing. So it got to the point where we just asked one of my aunts, who is a medium, to like what is going on, and she told us there is this big like light in the center of your guys' house, and it's pulling all this energy. That's why you have like so many like things happening right now, and like is the same around the same time we had the mischievous ghost, and I think
Wait, literal light or metaphorical light?
a metaphorical
Like a
light.
beacon.
She did
Okay.
like a remote reading of our house, and she was
Okay.
like, you just have this light like in the center of your house, like, and it is like driving everybody like to you guys right now. So she did is she just like focused on the house, and she focused on everybody that was in there, and one by one she had conversations with them and told them like you need to go here, like this is not like where you need to be, it's time for you to move on and go to the next thing. And she cleared them all out. We go back into the house, and it felt like when at the end of a party when everybody's gone, just that like that deadness. It was really weird. Like,
Okay, so it worked.
Yeah, it was a very weird feeling when she's telling us about like some of these entities, because she didn't want us to feel like it was something bad was happening. They were just like, she mentioned like a pair of young children, a boy and a girl, like that were in the house, and they were like very confused, and that like stuck out to all of us. And the next time my niece came over, she wandered around the house for a little while. She came to us and she asked, "Where are my friends? Like, where'd my friends go? Like, where are my friends?" And we were like, that was a big moment. It was just like, whoa, dude, like those were the two kids. And it might have been one of them unrolling in my damn toilet paper. You know what I mean? Who knows who that
Might
was?
have been, actually.
That's
But I always
interesting.
thought like, that seems like a kid thing to do. They were just bored having a good time. You know what I mean? Why not cause a little ruckus?
That's a really interesting story. The thing that I think is kind of strange, though.
Which part of my ghost story is strange?
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, I'm putting this all into perspective now. After this, you still had other paranormal things in that house?
Yeah, it was always like just little things, you know what I mean? Even
Yeah.
I told a really scary story last time in that house of like this woman's voice calling for help
Yeah,
and it getting
yeah, I
kind of
remember that.
aggressive. That was way before this. That was like,
Before the thing happened.
yeah,
Before
this
the
was like
cleansing.
towards the
No, I'm
end of
saying
us.
after the cleansing. Like,
The cleansing was like towards the end of us living in this house. Like I had to have been probably like 19. Like at this point, there's probably like 2 years.
there was just minor stuff after that?
Yeah, I was
Or
just
was it
like
pretty much-
like little things, just like, oh, like I feel this thing, I hear this thing, I saw this thing.
Okay.
Like, and then we just like take care of it really quick, and it's whatever.
Well, because what we're saying is, and like, you've felt these paranormal feelings in so many different houses, but in this particular one, it was not your family. You know what I mean? It was the house.
Well, my aunt told us like we had created this light.
Okay.
This house, my dad like he hired somebody to design it, so it was like everything he wanted. And the whole a big purpose of the house was like entertaining. We always had like huge parties in the house. It was just like a welcoming house. Like growing
Okay.
up, my house was the house that like
It
the
is a
friend, all
party
the friends
central.
came over to.
Oh, yeah.
There were instances where like I had friends come over when I wasn't there. Like my dad would call me like, "Hey, your friend so and so is like here waiting for you." Like and they would just
okay.
like be hanging
Me.
out. My dad would be giving
I'm
them
going on a
snacks
bike
and
ride.
stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Interesting.
And I'd
Okay.
like go meet up with them. It was just like a very welcoming. It was a gathering point. And my aunt was telling us like, "You guys created this space." You know what I mean? It's like this very welcoming, like loving, like space.
I think
Interesting.
one depiction.
A safe space.
Yeah.
Wow. You were
think-
ahead of the curve.
I think that like a good depiction in Hollywood of like what really like this kind of comes around to in Frank's family in particular is like Insidious does a really good job of like pointing out what beacons are in like this metaphysical realm.
Yeah, and it's like
where, like,
referred
spirits
to
dwell.
as light, and I don't know if they're like literally talking about light, but it's just like, and like I've done some Reiki healing stuff, or I've like had people do stuff to me, and one thing they always mention is like this mantra, and it's like I am love, I am light, I am joy, and like light's always like a big part of that.
Yeah. And so like it creates like this light beacon, whatever, that attracts things that might be lost, might be wandering. And if they're like, and that's why Insidious is pretty cool like that. It does have like scenes in like The Further or whatever it's called, where it's like there's wandering spirits. It's super dark. So whatever light there is in the darkness draws them like moths to a flame.
Interesting. I don't really remember much of Insidious.
Oh, it's
Insidious is a fun one.
I think it's a good one.
The Darth Maul face at the end is just,
You clicked off there.
yeah, it was just funny when I saw it. I was like, what? What is
It's
Darth
true.
Maul
And that
doing
one's
here?
in Harsh Daylight, too. I kind of like that one.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
really cool.
Okay.
I have heard that one before. That's a good one.
Interesting.
Because I do remember when she was a baby. I've been there since she was young. And I do remember
I'm gonna
her.
steal a word from you earlier. That's probably like one of the most profound memories I have, because just like the realization of all that, just like, man, and like I felt honestly like a little bit sad for my niece. Like my sister had to explain to her like this isn't like where they needed to be. Like that was probably like her introduction to it. Just like, hey, those weren't like people you were hanging out with.
It's really weird when like things connect like
Yeah,
that, and
yeah.
you feel like this like whoa, this like full circle feeling of like, oh my god, that was a little strange. You know what I mean? Like I don't know if I can explain.
And she
that
was
right
like a
off the
little
bat.
girl. It's not like we told her like, hey, we had like
Ghosts.
we had like a ghost and we did a cleansing. Like she just walked in and she was wondering where her friends were.
Interesting.
Yeah, but then what did you explain to her? Like, there were
Did
spirits
you tell them that they
here
were
and
there?
they've moved on.
No, but this is after she was like, where did my friends go?
So she didn't know anything about the cleansing before coming.
No.
There was no mention of any kind of cleansing.
No,
See,
why
that
would
is
you tell a little
interesting.
girl something about like that?
That is well. I mean, why would you tell a little girl that there were ghost children there?
Because
and
she
that
was
they
like,
didn't belong there?
because she was like upset.
Yeah.
She was like upset that like
That's
her friends
interesting.
were gone. You know what I mean?
I just think it's interesting from your family's dynamic that everyone learns about this from a very young age.
Also, just like my mom was just telling me from like the time I was a small child, like, hey, I'm gonna die one day. Like they just like,
Yeah.
I learned what apartheid was when I was like
Well,
5.
that's something different though. That's just facts of life. You know what I mean? Like,
But also to my family, this is facts of life, man.
yeah, I get that, but it is something like all children should know their parents will die one day. Like that's a conversation parents have with children to learn about, the circle of life. Not all parents have a sister who's a medium, you know what I mean? Or like that's what I'm saying. Because maybe, and to play along into your guys' theory, maybe I'm so closed off to this because none of my family at all is into any kind of paranormal thing. I never had any ghost stories when I was a kid. I mean, obviously like urban legend stories, but not like, oh, there was one time where this happened and this happened. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
My mom told me about a time she almost got attacked by a bear.
That's
pretty
scary.
crazy.
That's literally scary.
Yeah,
too.
but there was never like, oh, one time a ashtray flew off the table or something. So I don't know. I mean, I think that your upbringing can
One
have
time
a
your
lot of
sister
outlook.
was sucked into the television.
Closer to the light, Caroline. I don't know. I think that plays a big part of it because there's got to be cultures all over the world who would see things differently, things that work in the world, and you could argue that a lot of that is maybe because of their culture, some kind of like influence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or even like religious feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Influence is like a huge thing. Like I'm very
Yeah.
aware that like I am more open to this because it's been talked about to me for like a very long time. But yeah, that's just the way I look at it. Like
Interesting.
I'm like not necessarily looking for it, but I mean I hear and see everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I pay attention.
Yeah.
I like that. So, I suppose if I'm hip deep in the spookiness now.
We're just at the hip right now.
Yeah.
Okay. I
No,
was wondering.
actually-
I was
how many
wondering
more
the
of
gauge
these-
of your body, like where we were at.
You know,
How many more of these stories are we gonna have?
I only have one more. This is my
Oh, okay.
last
I figured
one.
we do 3. 3's kind of the rhythm.
Three
Yeah.
is usually our rhythm.
Yeah, and I'm about shoulders length. This is one that has rocked me.
I like that you adjusted the scale. Too.
Yeah, like I say, okay, you know what? All right,
Let's
hip.
move past the
this is-
hips.
Yeah, I've probably dipped into pretty much the 6-foot part of the pool right now. You know,
Wow, this is getting really, really descriptive.
of the spooky pool. This is one that happened not long ago, actually, and it is one that has shaken me to the bone and kind of created some sleeping problems for me for a while. I know things can be dismissed pretty easily with sleep because it's a very iffy line of what's reality and what's not, what's dream experience and what's not. But just a lot of things happen to me in the nighttime versus the daytime. I don't know what it is. Whether I'm sleepy or not. It doesn't have to be super late. Doesn't have to be super early in the night. But this one happened while I was in Florida.
Excuse me, Florida.
In Florida, hanging out with Rick Ross. I was doing an internship living by myself. I didn't really hang out with many people when I was out there.
Well, it's
Because of the
Florida.
smell.
It's Florida. Well, everything's trying to kill you. The people, the animals, the weather. And I was in West Palm Beach, which is very like historically rich, surprisingly too. And it's got like a lot of Native American legends and stuff in it. It's really interesting. I was in a house that was one of the first houses ever built in West Palm Beach, which is really interesting. It was like made in I want to say like 60 or 1865.
Would you
right
refer
around
to it as this old house?
that old house? It was a stagecoach building, like a station that was converted into apartments.
Okay.
So the bottom floor was where horse stables and stuff would be. Up top, there was some sort of like, I don't know, you keep all the equipment or something, or someone sleeps up top. I don't know.
Just a bunch of like rubber chickens.
Yeah.
Just like a whole floor full of rubber chickens.
Whips and cowboy hats and stuff up there. Anyways, so that was my top floor apartment. It was converted. Never really had any spooky stuff happen to me. One night, I'm hanging out in my apartment. I'm like studying for a test I'm working on and stuff. And I'm like, okay, I need to get ready for bed. I've gotten to the point now. When I was a kid, I was not able to sleep without any kind of noise on. I needed the TV on. I needed a radio on or something like that.
I'm
like
still that way. I need like white noise in the back to like drown everything else
Apparently,
out.
it's really bad for you. I just read this article
It
the other
is.
day that said
It's
People
not
have
good
been
for
telling
you.
me that since I was a small child,
Yeah.
but I can't sleep without
even
it.
for your weight, apparently, which I thought was kind of weird.
Yeah, lack of sleep can affect your weight pretty
Yeah.
hard too. And the thing is, I got to a point in my life where I was more comfy with not having anything on. And I think it's because I kind of closed myself off to anything.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why what comes back to where I was saying before we started this conversation, where like I really would rather see something than hear something, because I feel like hearing something just buries into my psyche way more.
Okay.
Burrows. into
Well,
my
that makes sense. It was like one of your creepiest experiences was the time you like it was all audible. You know? what I mean?
The audible hallucination
yeah.
with my mom. Yeah, that was weird. So okay, back to this part. I was getting ready for bed. It was in complete darkness.
Darkness.
Yeah, and so there is a crawl space above my bed in the apartment that I was in, and
Get out of here, Fred.
I had no animal. There was no pet. There was no nothing. I was sitting in the dark, getting ready to like get near going to sleep. I was really restless that night. I was studying for a big test and stuff. And I look at the clock. It's about 10:30. I start to hear some scruffling, kind of above in the roof. And from time to time, it's like probably a rat. It's Florida. You know what I mean?
Be anything.
It's a rat, a raccoon, a possum, whatever. It could have been anything up there. I hear it scurry kind of in my top left corner. I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm on my phone. I put my phone down.
Just looking at dank memes.
Yeah, I'm probably memeing. Probably sending you guys memes. I hear something scurry across from the top left of the roof to the bottom right of the roof, so in a diagonal pattern. It's kind of small. Kind of sounds small, like a cat or something. I'm just like, oh my god, this is annoying. 5 minutes later, I'm still sitting in darkness, and I hear something scurry again at the same lightness, and then it's something heavy. Like it's like it's something that was crawling on fingernails that turned into like crawling on knees, and it's like, and it kind of stops in the middle of the roof, and I like am just like, at this point I'm like, that was really loud. Like, what is that? I'm like under my sheets, and I'm like holding my breath. And this is the weird part. Okay, so there's a hatch door to the crawl space that is locked from the inside in my apartment, that goes into the bathroom that's outside of the room I'm in. Okay, it's a very hardwood floor apartment. It's like a very loud, noisy apartment. I hear a latch. I don't hear it open. And then I hear shuffling footsteps in the other room. I'm like freaking out at this point. Like I feel like I'm stuck.
I'm like, oh, I'm in Florida. I have a meth head in my house.
I don't have
right
a
now.
gun with me. I have nothing. I'm like, okay. So I go to reach for my phone. I get my flashlight on, and I'm just like pointing it all over the place. I'm trying to find like my light like my lamp.
You should have downloaded a gun app.
Bam!
Just fake cock tapping.
Yeah. Again, at this point, I'm kind of freaking out. I sit up, I wait, I walk outside, and I try to see something. The latch is still on the hatch. Nothing's been unlatched.
Latches on the hatch.
Latches on the hatch. Nothing unhatched. I look around the entire apartment. Nothing's there. I look outside the front door. Nothing's there. I look outside the back door. Nothing. And I'm like, okay. I get back into my bed, close my door, and I just try to chill myself out. Like I do some breathing exercises and stuff. And I'm still laying in the dark, and I hear the shuffling again, and my eyes like instantly widen, and I'm just like, oh my God, because it sounds like it's right in front of my bed, and it stops. And as soon as I do that, and I try to like catch my breath, I feel an impression in the bed, and it's like right next to my left foot, and it feels like someone put their hand into my bed. And then I feel another one up by my right knee, and then I feel another one, and I'm frozen with fear at this point. And then there's nothing in front of me. Like, I'm even like looking, like there's nothing in front of me. I can see the roof, but I feel these impressions in the bed, like there's weight on top of me. And then something just lets go of itself, falls on top of me. I feel a weight, and then my sheets move, and then nothing. There's nothing there. And I freak out. I like turn on the light, and I'm like, okay, I have to go for a walk or something. I just get out of my apartment and I go for a walk, and
This is too scary. I'm gonna go hang out with the alligators.
I like went for a walk. I
So
had
I'm gonna
to
play David's part here really quick.
Well, maybe there's a gator in the ceiling.
Oh, dude, you got gators in your
They
ceiling.
can climb.
Yeah.
You got a gator in your ceiling. That's your problem
That's
right
the
there.
claw
Why you
marks,
got a
and then
gator
the
in
big
your bed?
the big heavy paws, the gator paws everyone knows about.
That gator was just tiptoeing for a second because he
yeah,
thought I was gonna
yeah.
get away with it, and he was like, "You know what? I'm a gator, damn it!
Gator don't play no.
I'm a dinosaur, damn it!" So maybe a car was passing by. No, I'm just kidding. This actually sounds a lot like the phenomenon known as sleep paralysis, like to a T.
Yeah.
But also like. Who am I to say, you know? I'm not even like a regular scientist or nothing.
You were enough of someone that we did a podcast episode on very early on.
Well, true. I knew that sleep paralysis would come into the argument, and
Yeah.
it's possible that that's what it was.
Yeah. But also, could have been a spooky ghost.
Could have been a spooky alligator ghost. We haven't gotten that far.
Chomp, chomp, chomp.
See, I'm willing to sign on for alligator
At any
ghosts.
point, did you feel it roll really fast?
Yeah.
I did smell Gatorade.
Ah.
As soon as
That's
it
how you get the power of the gator.
Power of the gator.
yes.
Yeah, and I don't know. I knew that sleep paralysis would come into the argument, and I have looked into it, and it hasn't happened to me since then. And it's possible, but I also don't know what sleep paralysis could be. We know what it is a little bit in science, but we don't really know what it could be.
That is so interesting. You know, I would love to have a paranormal experience, and I think I've thought that for a long time. But I am.
What if I just
probably-
die and haunt you?
Well, see, I'd be interested. You know what I mean? But I'm probably
I'd be
too
like,
skeptic to
"Isn't
even.
that interesting?
I'm probably too skeptic to even really like experience something. Even though I would like to, I'm maybe shut off. Like there's an eagerness, but an unwillingness to believe. You
Just
know
play
what
with
I
a
mean?
Ouija board, man.
Yeah,
No,
but
do not recommend.
Ouija board's like made by like Hasbro. You know what I mean? You can go to
it's based-
Target and buy a Ouija board.
But it's based off of like
It's
old
like the
traditions.
energy you put
yeah,
into it.
but what I'm saying is I need like a real Ouija board. I need something that's like from the 1800s.
One bought from like some Romani gypsy woman.
See,
Yeah.
that's the Ouija board I play
inscribed in
around
blood.
with. Yeah.
Yeah.
Send your things to P.O. Box. No, sure.
Oh God, no.
Yeah, I don't know. That was one that legitimately rocked me to the core. Couldn't sleep for a couple nights after that.
Did it rock
too.
you like a
Hurricane?
like a Miami University hurricane?
That's really good. That's a good one.
University of Miami. Nailed
Miami.
it. First try.
Miami.
Miamityville
Miami.
Horror. University of Miamityville Horror Hurricanes.
I'd say that's the spookiest thing to have happened to me.
That's pretty spooky, man.
since
I mean,
then. That's the only time I've ever felt something malicious messing with me.
Yeah, it is weird.
Like something was.
the other
really
one just
trying
wanted to be
mess
your
with me.
mama.
Yeah.
which is weird.
It is
but
also
not
weird,
malicious.
but not malicious.
Are you sure you're not confusing your time in Florida with the plot of Paranormal Activity 3?
I'd say it was considerably scarier than the
Yeah,
plot of
wow.
Paranormal Activity 3.
How do they even get that much VHS tapes? You know what I mean?
You just buy them in bulk.
I guess. I had a lot of VHS tapes. He was running that thing the whole time.
So, if we're done with the spooky stories for now, I believe it's time for...
That's right, everyone. Oh, that's spooky. A special limited edition of Oh, That's Interesting, where I share with you all a spooky story. And this one is 100% real. There's no question about it. Not to diminish your guys' input. Because, I won't even say that I know you too. And so look at this. I'm just getting back into the other thing. But as skeptic as I am, I know that you both aren't insane. You know what I mean? I'm saying, there's probably something going on. This is an excerpt from a book called The Elements of Murder, A History of Poison, by John Emsley. John Emsley goes through all these different chapters, and each chapter is a different kind of poison. So there's a whole thing about arsenic, and then it'll be huge arsenic cases where people have been poisoned with it.
There's a chapter about Poison the band.
No.
Skip that one.
Yeah, luckily that didn't make it past the cutting room floor.
What about the dance hit Poison?
Oh.
Poison.
I'm going to be honest, I haven't read the whole thing, so I'll get back to you.
Okay, cool.
This is from a chapter called Fluoride Can Be Fatal. And I just have a little segment I'm going to read to you guys. Death due to fluoride poisoning is rare, and when it has occurred, it has generally been accidental, as was the case at a hospital in the USA in 1943, where patients were served scrambled eggs to which sodium fluoride had been added instead of sodium chloride, common salt.
Gotta read the label.
Right? 163 were taken ill and 47 died. The sodium fluoride had been purchased as pesticide, but wherever sodium fluoride was sold as rat, ant, cockroach poison, there was always the possibility that it could be used to kill unwanted humans as well. Products such as Ant Bane and Bee Branch Roach Killer were on sale in the USA, and these consisted of around 80% sodium fluoride. The sudden death of Mrs. Mamie Furr in Bogalusa, Louisiana, one day in 1949, was due to such a product. On the morning of the 25th, she had gone to work as usual to a local box factory, and at lunchtime she returned home where she was invited by her next-door neighbor, Mrs. Cola Lemming, to have a coffee. They should have had
Coca-Cola family.
Stay on brand.
Well, it's her first name, so that just means whoever named her was a big cola fan. I don't know. The two women were seen by a neighbor to be drinking and talking together on the top step of the back porch of the Lemming home. The conversation might well have become less than friendly because Cola had previously run off with Mamie's husband, Will, the previous October, and they had lived together as man and wife in New Orleans, or Narlands.
Scandalous.
Right? Although they had returned to Bogalusa and to their respective spouses, Cola still had hopes of one day marrying Will and had persuaded him to begin divorce proceedings. Mamie began to feel decidedly ill within minutes of returning to her home, and she started vomiting and was soon vomiting up blood.
Ooh.
She called another neighbor.
Has she eaten any blood that day?
You know what? I don't know.
Not easy to digest
I'm not
blood.
sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Raw liver was really big in Louisiana. But no, not really. Mamie began to feel ill, vomiting up blood. She called another neighbor and asked her to go fetch her husband. An ambulance was called, and Mamie was rushed to hospital, but she died within an hour of being admitted. Meanwhile, Mrs. Lemming was seen by a neighbor as she sat on a rocking chair on her back porch, muttering to herself, "My God, what have I done?"
You poisoned her.
Yeah, for reals, though. You know what you did.
You were there.
You're not sorry, just sorry about to get caught. What she had done was stir some sodium fluoride-based incesticide into Mamie's coffee. Yikes. Forensic analysis of the contents of Mamie's stomach, vomit, and tablecloth taken from Mrs. Lemming's kitchen showed clear evidence of sodium fluoride. The local coroner had little difficulty in arriving at a verdict of death from fluoride poisoning. Cola Lemming was arrested and brought to trial in March 1950. Her defense lawyer tried to make out that Mamie had several times threatened suicide, but this did not carry much weight with the jury. Indeed, the jurors learned that soon after her return on New Year's Day, 1949, Mrs. Lemming had again vowed to have Will Furr as her partner no matter what the cost. That cost was to be found guilty of murder, and although not given the death penalty, she was sentenced to spend the rest of her natural life at hard labor in the Louisiana State Penitentiary.
Oof, wow.
Now, there's a big part of the story that they don't have in the book, and it's that Will Furr had plotted this with Cola Lemming, and this was like a plan that they had made.
It was a coup.
And he also went to penitentiary, so both of them were locked away for murder and conspiracy to commit murder. And I know this.
Oh my God, I know what story this is, David.
Because Will Furr is my great-grandfather.
Crazy.
Whoa.
I remember the first time you told me you had like
Yeah.
a murder most foul in your family.
And this was like the
Whoa.
biggest murder case in Louisiana history at the time. It was a huge deal. My grandfather, Mason Furr, at that time was like a 7th grader. And both his parents were just gone. He had no family, so he dropped out of school, got a job at a shipyard, and like raised his 2 brothers at like 12 or 13 or something.
Because his dad was...
Because there was just no other option. You know what I mean? Wow. But yeah,
How crazy.
That's some real murder that went down.
Yeah,
and
you've told me like there was a murder, but you never give me the details. You always like withheld it for an opportunity like this, and I'm glad you did.
Yeah,
that was exciting.
I felt like it was
on
gonna be
your
right.
dad's side or on your
This is
mom's?
my mom's side, and my mom's got a storied background. And maybe I'll tell another story. I got to get her clearance first. This one's a little more personal to her. I mean, obviously my mom never met any of these people, you know what I mean? So, you know, it's not like a super huge story, but it's something that my grandfather didn't really even like talking about necessarily. He hated his parents because of, well, his parent.
I
because of
mean,
it.
pretty good reason.
Ruined his life, really.
Yeah, essentially, right? And then, I don't know. My mom had done some research on it. She got in a big history kick and found out that it was featured in a book. Like there was a section in this book about this particular case, which is, I just thought,
That's incredible.
pretty insane.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah,
I
man.
like that. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
right?
David, that is spooky.
That is
Oh,
spooky.
yes, indeed.
What a reveal.
Indeed.
Wow.
Bam, the elements of murder. Well, it's that time, everyone, where we close this thing out, and we close it out one way.
Peeps. Predicts. Peeps. Peeps. Predicts. Peeps. Predicts. Peeps. Peeps. Give me that peep.
Oh, here you go.
Oh,
Well, sorry, you can pick one if you
that was
want.
part of the song, but I'll tell.
Oh, give me that peep. Sorry, I didn't get that was part of
How
the
did
song.
you not know the next line of the song that I just
Don't
made up
you
on
know
the
that
spot right now? Got one. I got several now.
Okay, feel them out. All right, Danny, who are our peeps today?
Our peeps of this episode 31 are Steven Tyler versus David Lee Roth.
Wow.
Ugh. I mean, wow. Okay, hang on. I'm going to embarrass myself right now. Steven Tyler's Aerosmith.
Yes.
David Lee Roth is Van Halen?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Hey!
Everybody got some!
My whale jump! There's an embarrassing performance of them doing Jump, like, on the Ellen show. It's like, what happened
Is
here?
it so bad?
Oh, it's just they're old, you know what I mean? He's still jumping around, though. He's still jumping.
He'll still jump.
All right, Frank, what do we got here?
We got a good old Frank predict, and I honestly
God.
forgot to put this one in there.
Okay, great. Let's see what it is.
I probably wouldn't even had to tell you guys that it was me, because our first predict is who is more likely to poop a little when they fart.
Wow.
I'm so glad
We're
this one.
here at David and Frank and Beans. We ask the questions that matter.
The hard-hitting questions that other people don't. Okay, I'm going to lead off with this one. I'm going to say that is Steven Tyler.
Who's older?
I was
Because-
gonna say that.
Well, not
right,
even
so
the
let's-
older thing. His face looks more like a butt. So because some of his
David,
butt,
what a scientific argument.
because some of his butt power has been allocated elsewhere, he has less control of his own
Because of being a
Butts.
butt face.
because of being a butt face.
Makes sense.
Science.
I was gonna go for the older argument, but that just stomped my argument to,
Oh
to
my
the ground.
goodness, man.
That just threw the brown switch on my argument completely.
Through the brown switch.
To the brown switch. Wow.
That is hilarious.
I mean, there's no contest from me on that. That's a sound argument.
I'm trying to think of an argument to go against it because I always like at least arguing, but I've got nothing, man.
Yeah, I mean, unless someone's got like a Wikipedia article about how like David Lee Roth had to have like some kind of medical treatment.
Notorious for pooping his pants.
Was that number 5?
Nice, good 5.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
The number 5 was about number 2. You gotta love it.
let's just move on here.
You just mambo number 5 does.
Ooh.
Who would be more useful on a time-traveling adventure?
Well, Steven Tyler, because he's old as heck.
Do you need a lot of scarves when you're time traveling?
Steven Tyler would have
Does Liv get to come?
only if you're shooting a music video. You know what I mean?
It's got to be in a props.
I would think that Steven Tyler would be a better time traveler because he would know where to go in history.
Exactly.
Because
he'd live there.
Well, no, not just that. Like, he would know the right times to go. You know what I mean? Because he doesn't want to miss a thing.
Oh my goodness.
God.
I didn't see that coming at all.
That was really good.
For our listeners, I'd like to apologize for David's antics. His personality, just all of it doesn't
I'll be here all
represent what we stand for here at David and Frank and Beans. His name being in it is really a formality.
I don't think there's any Van Halen song that I know about time travel, except for probably the argument being made.
What about time jump?
Or time jumping? Oh,
Might as well.
Time jump.
that was going to originally be in Back to the Future before Huey Lewis and the News. But it could be argued that eruption is actually a one-on-one anecdote of the primordial seas
Interesting.
of the Earth being.
But isn't David Lee Roth the singer?
I guess so.
So he's not even involved in that track. You know what I mean?
Very true.
Another solid argument by David.
I'm knocking him out of the park tonight, everyone.
Yeah,
You know what?
that's-
Just playing counter to you guys all night, it's tuned me up. I'm ready for
It's
this. right now.
airtight. Unlike Steven Tyler's face.
This is tough. This is tough because I don't really particularly like either of these guys, and my knowledge on both of them is very shallow.
Yeah,
Like,
same.
I know that Steven Tyler.
I knew more
likes to
about
feature
our
his
Scott
teenage
Stapp
daughter.
conversation than I
Oh,
did
yeah, right.
about Steven Tyler or David Lee Roth.
God, Scott Stapp.
You know what? Just for the sake of moving on, guys, I'm going to go with Steven Tyler.
I
Why
say
not?
the same thing. He's a dinosaur.
I don't want to argue a third one. And
I'd also
the
say
age
like
thing makes
stage
sense.
presence wise, like I've seen Steven Tyler look way more like a spaceman than anything. And what is a time traveler, if not a space traveler, but with time?
Yeah,
True. He
That's
is
true.
in the Armageddon soundtrack.
True.
That's another knock on the belt there.
It's jaded, right? And also don't miss a thing.
Jaded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When your daughter's in it,
your mama's mom.
it was part of Liv Tyler's contract.
Can we toss my dad a
I'm
bone?
only going to do the job if my dad gets 2 songs. All right, well, then let's put Steven Tyler up against the future powerhouse. I'm predicting it now. The future powerhouse that is Bill Nye,
Calling
the
it
science
now.
guy. Bill.
For what predict we got here?
Who's more likely to need assistance freezing themselves? Wait, I read that totally wrong. Who is more likely to need assistance freeing themselves from a Chinese finger trap? And look, I mean, I just called it, and instantly this doesn't. I mean, I feel like there's no argument that Steven Tyler is more clever than Bill Nye. You know what I mean? Like, in what universe is Steven Tyler somehow smarter than Bill Nye the Science Guy?
Let's say like he's probably got some like cocaine induced dementia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'd have to make.
He's
that
probably got
argument.
more emotional intelligence because of sweet emotion.
Yes.
You know,
Good point.
in that regard.
Dream On, another very spiritual song.
Very spiritual.
Kind of,
song.
I guess. Just in the title, really.
I mean, let's be real. The Chinese finger trap is the whole way that it works is you have to apply just a little bit of logic to it because
Yeah.
it goes against your immediate reaction is to pull away, and that's how
Yeah.
it snares you. You know what I mean? So you and your logical mind have to go boop. Bill Nye the Science Guy obviously would immediately apply the scientific method to this,
Yeah.
get himself out
You'd
of
be
the
like, well,
situation.
this isn't working. How about we do the opposite?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm out.
Done.
Done.
Now, is this who would need more help getting out of it?
Yeah, who's more likely to need assistance being freed?
I have one counter argument.
Okay.
I don't know their exact heights, but if hand size is particular to height, I would argue that Bill Nye might have longer fingers, and it depends on the size of the Chinese finger trap.
Interesting.
Maybe his fingers are like touching and he can't get closer. You know what I mean?
Not any closer.
I feel like we looked up Bill Nye's height last time, and we're going to do it again.
I'm going to look up Steven Tyler's height.
I think Bill Nye's like 6'1" or something.
He's pretty tall.
He's 6 foot.
Okay. Okay, Steven Tyler's 5'10". He might have an easier time getting out of a Chinese finger trap
Maybe.
if he's smart enough
To
know how to get out of it.
I'm just going to say the amount of drugs that have been run through Steven Tyler's system and the amount of bad decisions we've already seen from him, like things that a sensible man would walk away from.
This man is 71 years old.
Yeah, and then there's the other thing, too. That brain is deteriorating.
A lot due to cocaine.
Yeah, like that already had a huge impact. Now he's just old. You could if you put enough finger traps on that guy, he'd never move again. He'd never
Just covered in finger
traps.
traps.
Bill Nye is only
Just dies
63 years old. Steven Tyler's older than Bill Nye.
Well, that makes sense because Aerosmith's so old. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Dream On's from the 70s, isn't
Yeah,
it?
they're very old. Steven
Yeah.
Tyler was born in 1948.
So, gentlemen, the real question is, do we believe the renowned, widely loved scientist would win? Or the butt face?
Well, the butt face wins in this case because in this particular
Oh, I see what you're saying.
predicament,
Yeah.
he would be the loser.
He
would
win.
need help.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Wow.
Has Steven Tyler
Wow, David,
now
you called
taken-
it and
I
you
called
were
it, and I jinxed it.
immediately wrong.
Yeah. Well,
Yikes.
you know, that
Because I got to
happens
vote for
sometimes.
Steven Tyler on this one.
I gotta
He's
vote
gonna
Steven
need some
Tyler
help.
too. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't
and
want
Bill
to,
Nye
but-
would be able to pull himself out of this sticky
Hold
wicket right
on.
away.
Final argument. Final argument, and precedent has been set.
Wow.
Bill Nye gained his fame from the well-loved television show Bill Nye the Science Guy.
I have
Yes.
an idea what this is.
Gentlemen, do you remember watching this television show?
Yes.
Yes.
So, in the show, Bill Nye would show you an experiment that most of the times you could do at home.
Okay.
Did Bill Nye do those experiments alone? He always had a little child assistant come in to help out. Every single experiment,
Wow.
at least one little helper. Why? Because he wants kids to learn how to get through these situations.
Interesting.
Bill Nye being stuck in this finger trap automatically, just out of what's the word I'm looking for? Just out of habit.
I was gonna say
Out of the
notorious?
habit?
Yeah, no, just out of notorious.
Yeah. Just him breaking out of this habit.
So he's been out of this habit for a long time. So at this point, he is Sister Act 2 back in the habit.
There we go.
Got it in there.
So, okay, rough landing.
I was waiting for that.
So no, the landing really is like he would immediately just be like, and my friend so and so over here. Let's call him Little Stevie Tyler. My little friend Little Stevie Tyler is going to help show you that he's going to help pull him his hands apart. He's going to show him it goes in. He's automatically going to ask for assistance.
Even if he
Steven
knows.
Tyler, even if he knows, he's already going to ask for it. Steven Tyler might be able to, I mean, if he's on a good day, might be able to get out of that thing.
And another, like, in support of that argument, Steven Tyler, no one wants to be around him.
No.
Not even his bandmates. They're tired of him.
Makes sense.
So how's he even going to need assistance if he's a hermit?
Like, yeah, true. Everybody knows he is a hermit now. He lives like up in the mountains in
Yeah.
a cave.
With his scarves.
He has like a little shell he wears on his back.
This is interesting. Danny, where do you stand on this? What's your vote?
I'm switching my vote to Bill Nye. He always asks for assistance when performing an experiment.
I'm still going to have to vote on the incompetence of Steven Tyler.
You know, I love Frank's spirited argument. I got to go Steven Tyler because of the wording of the question. Who is more likely to need assistance?
Damn
freeing
need,
himself?
man.
He would prefer assistance.
He would use it as an opportunity to display educational, you know.
I would say that at this point in Steven
Examples.
Tyler's life, it's very possible that he has like a daily assisted living person with him.
Could be.
Well,
Might could.
well, you know what? There you have it, everyone. Steven Tyler
Is
our
now our reigning champ.
Looks like we'll have to walk his way for a little
Oh
while.
no. Okay, before this gets any worse, we'll just end this episode.
It could get worse. You give it like another 30 seconds. I bet you we'll come up with something.
I'm gonna
we-
try and cut it out real fast.
Can we bring Bernie Sanders back, please?
Hopefully he's in the cup somewhere.
It might.
so.
Who knows? And speaking of which, you know, if you ever want to add in a peep or a predict, send them to us
Yeah, please.
through the YouTube comments, through davidandfrankandbeans@gmail.com. Join us for episode 32, where we're bringing back our quest to find out our favorite movie of all time. And I'll skip the rest for now.
Do you have any spooky stories? If you're watching this, you put it in the comments below.
Yeah,
if you're listening
please.
to on the podcast app or Spotify, there is no comment section. So
And I'll comment on all of those and say, did you think about maybe a car driving outside? Have you seen if you have bathroom gnomes? I'm going to go through all the lists.
Bathroom
with
gnome
you.
seems like a more likely explanation for everything now.
Could be.
true, all of it.
But yes, please send us your spooky stories, man. We got next year coming around. We can go through these
Yeah.
and compile them. That'd be really cool. And then David can debunk them all.
Yeah.
Be really
That's
tight.
what I do. Not very successfully, but I'll try.
Don't poison people with their tea.
Yeah. Don't have kids named David. Several lines down the line.
True. Goodbye.
Bye bye.